Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, February the 10th. We do have a big Friday night slate, 11 game slate, and it's the day after the trade deadline. So there is going to be a lot of value today. There's going to be a lot of shorthanded teams. We're going to have to wait and see if a lot of the guys who got traded Thursday, if they're going to be available for their new teams on Friday. Some of the guys aren't even in the player pool, so it's a little bit of a tricky situation to break down the night before, but I'll try and give you guys my best breakdown of this slate game by game. We'll quickly go over each game, what I do like, taking a first look at this slate on Thursday night. Before we get started with the breakdown though, as always, if you guys enjoy these DFS videos, if they help you out, please hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel, check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code Noah. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. Should have had PrizePicks pulled up already, but I'll pull it up real quick just so you guys can see. If you've never played on PrizePicks before, they're a player prop site, so very simple and easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. They don't have NBA stuff posted yet for Friday. I'm recording this video the night before, but they do have stuff up for the Super Bowl. They have a ton of projections up for the Super Bowl. They do have a free square available as well. They have Patrick Mahomes passing yards set at 0.5, a free pick that PrizePicks is giving you. Take Mahomes to have more than 0.5 passing yards. Find any other pick you like to pair with that. It doesn't have to be NFL. It can be NBA. Take a look at the NBA board for Friday, see if there's anything you like. But again, if you guys are not playing on PrizePicks yet, use that promo code Noah. When you sign up, get your first deposit matched up to $100. Let's go ahead and talk through this big slate. We'll start off with the first game of the night, the Suns and the Pacers. So the Suns are on a back-to-back tonight. We're going to have to monitor their injury report. Devin Booker did not play Thursday for injury management, so I'm assuming he will play today. The Suns only had 9 available players on Thursday. They should have 10 available players today, assuming that Booker plays. So not really anything stands out on Phoenix. Booker is going to be on a minutes limit most likely. I'm not really interested in him. Chris Paul looks a little bit, he looks priced about right now that Booker's back. Not super interested in Paul. Not really interested in any other Suns. I think DeAndre Ayton, if I had to play anyone on Phoenix, he would probably be my favorite play. I think this matchup against Indiana is pretty good, but 8,100 feels priced correctly, and with Booker most likely back, I just not really going to go to many Suns today. And then on the Indiana side, Indiana's a team that didn't really make a ton of trades, so they're pretty much fully healthy for this game. The theme of this slate is to really target the teams that are shorthanded, target some of the value from guys getting traded. So for example, there's a player that normally would start that's no longer on the team, and now his backup is a really good value. That's going to be kind of the theme of this slate. For these two teams, there's not really much value from these two teams. Indiana's in kind of a tough spot here. Phoenix is a decent defensive team. They are losing, they did lose Mikal Bridges, one of their better defenders, but this is still not a spot I really want to attack. So if you want to go to Halliburton in tournaments or Miles Turner in tournaments, they're both going to be really low owned, I would assume. By all means, feel free to play them, but that's really all that stands out on the Pacers side. There's not much to like in this first game, so let's move on to the next one, the Knicks and the Sixers. Another game that I don't really like a ton from on the Philadelphia side. Joel Embiid once again listed as questionable, but I expect Embiid to play. Embiid is a fine pay-up option, but at 11.5, he's not a guy that I'm trying to prioritize today. There's other studs I'd rather pay up for. Plus, the matchup against the Knicks, I think it's okay. I know these teams did just play recently. Embiid put up 54 DK points, played 36 minutes. Look, he's 11.5, so you kind of need him to go for 60+ to be really worth his salary. He hasn't done that in 5 straight games. I'm sure Embiid's going to put up a big game at some point, but again, not a priority for me today. The rest of the Sixers, Harden, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, none of these guys really look that great today. So let's go ahead and move on to the other side of this game, talk about the Knicks. So with New York, I don't really like a ton here either. Julius Randle's 10.4, feels priced about right. Jalen Brunson, 8,600, feels priced about right. Same with RJ Barrett. The Knicks did acquire Josh Hart, so we'll have to see if Josh Hart's available for this game. He's not listed in the Draftkings player pool, or he's listed in the Draftkings player pool, but they still have him on Portland. So we'll have to see if Josh Hart's available to play for the Knicks. I don't know if, even if he is available, if you'll even be able to roster him. So yeah, there's not too much I like from New York today. Randle, Brunson, fine tournament plays, but no priorities coming from this team. Isaiah Hartenstein's been playing decent minutes lately, been getting a lot of the backup center minutes. He's an okay value, I guess, but on a big slate like this with a lot of shorthanded teams, there's better value available. So let's move on to the next game, and this is where it starts to get interesting. So San Antonio and Detroit, two teams that play little defense, so this should be a game where you see a lot of points scored. These are two of the worst defensive teams in the league. We'll start off on the Detroit side. Detroit did make some trades. They traded away Sadiq Bey. They did acquire James Wiseman, and they already reported that James Wiseman is supposedly going to start for Detroit now. We don't know yet if James Wiseman is going to be available for this game, and right now DraftKings doesn't have him in the player pool. He might be in the player pool, but he's still on the Warriors. Or the Warriors aren't, I don't even think they're on the slate. So, yeah, James Wiseman is not in the player pool. Maybe DraftKings adds him to the player pool, but we'll have to wait and see. If James Wiseman does get added to the player pool, and if he's cheap, and if he's starting, he's going to be a really good value from Detroit. If he's not available, then Jalen Duren's in a pretty good spot. He's only $5K. San Antonio's been a good matchup for centers. They've been a good matchup for everyone. I'd assume that Duren continues to play like 28, 30 minutes, so he would be a viable cheap option. Either like Bojan in this spot against San Antonio, I have some interest in. I think the matchup's really good. San Antonio, again, bad defensive team. This game should be high scoring, so I think Bojan's fine. I think Jaden Ivey should probably take on a slightly bigger role without Sadiq Bey. We did see Killian Hayes start last game. I'm guessing Killian Hayes will start again. He played 29 minutes in a blowout, had 24 DK points. That was a really tough matchup against Cleveland. Obviously, this is a much better matchup against San Antonio, so I definitely like Killian Hayes for value, assuming that he starts again. The rest of Detroit, though, like Alec Burks, Hamidou Diallo, none of these guys really stand out. It's really Bojan, Ivy, Duren, and Hayes that I like most. And again, James Wiseman is now on the Pistons. We'll have to see if he's available to play for this game. The reports are that if he's available, he will start. Again, that's just news we don't have right now, though. Now, on the other side with San Antonio, San Antonio is another team that made a lot of trades. So Josh Richardson is not on the team anymore. He got traded to the Pelicans. Jakob Poeltl got traded away to the Raptors. So they're pretty thin. Keldon Johnson's questionable. Trey Jones is questionable. Jeremy Sohan's questionable. This team could be really, really shorthanded if some of these questionable guys don't play. Assuming that Keldon Johnson plays, I kind of like the spot for him against Detroit. Again, Detroit's a bad defensive team. I'm pretty sure I played Keldon the last time they faced Detroit. I remember the game because he got hurt like 12 minutes in. Really liked him that day. I like him a lot again today at 6,800, assuming he plays. I think Keldon is a fine option. I think Trey Jones is in a really good matchup at 5,700. He would definitely be playable. Jeremy Sohan at 5,200, I think be okay as well. And then value-wise, from San Antonio, Malachi Brannon's been playing a decent amount of minutes lately. He's been starting. Assuming that he continues to start, I think he's going to probably play 30-plus minutes, and he's only 4,900. He's a viable cheap option. And then Zach Collins looks like a really good value. Obviously, with no Jakob Poeltl anymore, Zach Collins should be the Spurs starting center moving forward, and he's only 4K. Zach Collins is a really good per-minute producer. He probably plays like 30 minutes here. Really good matchup against Detroit, so definitely like Zach Collins for value. I think he's a really strong option. And then the rest of these guys probably only become value. These guys only become rosterable if like Keldon and Trey and Sohan are out. Like Stanley Johnson, Doug McDermott, Isaiah Roby. These guys you're probably only considering if a lot of these questionable guys sit. And again, I think most of these questionable guys are probably going to play. But yeah, there's a lot to like in that game. Two bad defensive teams, two teams that are kind of shorthanded as well. There's a lot to like in that San Antonio-Detroit game. Moving on to the next one, though, Charlotte and Boston. So looking on the Boston side, Boston's going to be a little bit shorthanded for this game. No Jaylen Brown, no Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum is listed as questionable. So this is pretty important, pretty big news to keep an eye on. If they don't have Tatum, without Brown too, and Smart, I mean, the Celtics would be really shorthanded here. You would see a lot of Malcolm Brogdon, a lot of Derek White, a lot of Grant Williams. These guys would have to play a ton if Tatum's not available. For now, I think we just kind of have to assume that Tatum's playing. And if Tatum's playing, I mean, it's a really good spot against Charlotte. He crushed Charlotte earlier this year. They played earlier this season, I think Jaylen Brown was out that game. He put up 71 DK points, played 40 minutes against the Hornets. Really good spot for Tatum. Once again, the Hornets are a bad defensive team. They play fast, so I think Tatum's in a really good spot. Obviously going to take on a bigger role without Jaylen Brown. And then, Brogdon, Derek White, I think these guys benefit without Jaylen Brown, without Marcus Smart. They're definitely playable. I like White a little bit more just because he's been playing really big minutes lately. The coaching staff seems to have a lot of trust in White right now. You look, he's played at least 32 minutes in 5 straight games, so I think Derek White looks pretty solid at 6,100, and I would like him a lot more if Tatum got ruled out. And then the bigs from Boston, Robert Williams, Al Horford. Specifically, Williams I like quite a bit. Really, really good matchup here. Charlotte, they've been a team we've liked to target with bigs this season. They don't have Mason Plumlee anymore, but I don't think Mark Williams is really the best defender overall, so I think this matchup for centers is still going to be pretty good, even with Plumlee not on the team anymore. So I definitely like Robert Williams here. Wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I assume he'll play probably 28, 30 minutes, and obviously he's a really good per minute producer. I think he's viable at 6,100. The rest of Boston, though, probably not looking to any of these guys, I don't think. Grant Williams played a ton last game, but that was because they were missing Robert Williams. They were missing Al Horford. I expect Williams to play. I think Al Horford's probable too. Yeah, he's probable. So, like, Grant Williams, probably only considering him if, like, Tatum gets ruled out. But that'll do it for the Celtics. Now, on the other side with the Hornets, not the best spot here for the Hornets going on the road to face a good Celtics team. There's definitely some blowout risk in this game. But obviously, a guy like LaMelo Ball offers a ton of upside. LaMelo can put up a huge game any night. He can stuff the stat sheet. I think he's a viable tournament play. Not a priority, but I think he's always viable for GPPs. Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, Gordon Hayward. These guys I don't love. I think Gordon Hayward probably plays a good amount. He played 35 minutes last game, and now they don't have Jalen McDaniels, so I think we can expect big minutes for Gordon Hayward once again. Now, Gordon Hayward has not been he's not been the best per minute producer this season, but he's still cheap, and the minutes should be there, so I think he is in play for value. And then the best value play on the slate, in my opinion, is Mark Williams. Mark Williams most likely is going to start now that Mason Plumlee is no longer on the team, and Mark Williams has been a terrific point per minute player this season. When he's gotten minutes, he's been able to produce. Now, obviously, the matchup against Boston is really tough. Not a spot we really like to target, but I assume Mark Williams starts. I assume he plays 25 to 28 minutes as long as he stays out of foul trouble. Could even play, like, even if the game's a blowout, I could still see Mark Williams playing in a blowout. So Mark Williams going to have a ton of stock, moving forward. He's not going to be 3,200 for very long. Like, I would be surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised if, like, 2 weeks from now, Mark Williams is like 6K or 7K. So he's a great value play, assuming he starts. If by some chance he doesn't start and they go with like Nick Richards is also a really good per minute producer. So if Nick Richards winds up starting, he would be a really good value play. He would be on my radar too. But whoever starts as center for Charlotte is going to be a really good value. But that'll do it for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Utah and Toronto. Two other teams, two more teams, I should say, that did make some trades. Now, Toronto, they didn't really trade anyone away, I don't think, or at least not anyone super important. But they did acquire Jakob Poeltl, so we'll have to wait and see if Jakob Poeltl's available for this game. I assume if Poeltl's available, he'll start. He is in the player pool, and he's listed to play for Toronto. So if Poeltl plays, I think you can actually roster him. But starting off with the top of Toronto, so really good spot here against Utah, especially for a guy like Pascal Siakam. Siakam was kind of disappointing last time these teams played, but we saw him have a huge game last game against San Antonio. Siakam's been a tough player to really target this season with a ton of confidence. He's been super inconsistent, but the matchup here is good. I think Siakam is firmly in play for GPPs. I think Fred VanVleet for GPPs is fine as well. These guys feel priced correctly, but there's still plenty of upside for them. They're going to play a ton of minutes. Scotty Barnes is going to play a ton of minutes. So is Gary Trent. They feel priced about right, though. The rest of Toronto, I'm not super interested in. I think if Jakob Poeltl is not available, we should see Presta Chua start at center once again at 5,800. He is a viable cheap option, assuming he starts. If Poeltl starts, Poeltl's kind of interesting because Poeltl, he wasn't really getting a ton of minutes on San Antonio, but now I think playing for a different team, he could play like 34, 35 minutes a night playing with Nick Nurse, who's a guy that just runs his starters into the ground. Poeltl's going to be very interesting with this Toronto team. I don't know if his per-minute production is going to be as good, but he should play a lot with the Raptors, and he's historically been a good per-minute producer. So definitely keep an eye on if he's available. If he is, I think he's a very interesting option at 6,200. But that'll do it for the Raptors. I know Chris Boucher had a big game last game. He's a really good per-minute producer. Minutes have been pretty solid for him lately. I don't mind him as a value. I think there's better value available than Boucher, but I think Boucher is definitely in play at 4,600. Now, talking about the Utah side, so Utah, they did trade away Mike Conley, and they did acquire Russell Westbrook. Now, we don't really have any update on Westbrook. We don't know if he's going to play for this team. It looks like he's not going to make his debut Friday, but there's reports that he might not even play for the Jazz, that they might buy out his contract. So either way, Westbrook's not going to be available for this game. So Lauri Markkanen at 8,800. Don't love the spot against Toronto, but I think Markkanen's going to have a big role, big usage rate. I think he's fine. I think Jordan Clarkson without Mike Conley takes on a little bit of a bigger role at 6,600. I think he's playable. Walker Kessler should continue to play probably 30 minutes a night. He's fine at 5,700. But the guy that I really like from Utah is Colin Sexton. We saw Colin Sexton start at point guard last game in place of Mike Conley. He played 31 minutes, had 37 Draftkings points. Sexton's historically been a good per-minute producer, and you would think without Conley moving forward, He's going to be their starting point guard. He's going to play 34, 35 minutes a night most likely. Last game was a massive blowout. So, yeah, 4K, I definitely like Colin Sexton for value. I think he's a really strong value today. But that'll do it for this game. Let's move on to the next one, Houston and Miami. So for Miami today, really good spot here against the Rockets. I think, the main Miami guys look pretty solid. Bam, Jimmy, and Tyler Hero. This Miami team is running a super tight rotation right now. They're basically running an 8-man rotation. The 5 starters, Bam, Butler, Hero, Caleb Martin, and Gabe Vincent, those are going to be the 5 starters. And then off the bench, Max Strus, Haywood Highsmith, and Orlando Robinson are going to play. I don't think anyone else will be, they'll have other active guys, but I don't think anyone else is actually going to see the floor if it's a competitive game. So Miami's, they're locked in to playing their starters big minutes right now. I think Bam offers plenty of upside here. Price tag feels about right, but I think he's viable. I think Jimmy offers a lot of upside as well. I think at 8,400, he's a fine play too. Sam goes for Hero. Obviously, it's just a really good matchup here, so it feels pretty likely that somebody from Miami does well today given the matchup. And then value from Miami, I don't really like a ton of value here. Caleb Martin's going to start, probably play big minutes. He's not the best permanent producer, but the last few games he has been playing really well. Feel like there's some regression coming, but he's cheap still. The matchup's really good. I think Caleb Martin is okay for value. Same goes for Gabe Vincent. Not the best permanent producer, but he's been playing a ton of minutes. Matchup is really good. At 4,500, I think Gabe Vincent is an okay value. And then the bench guys from Miami, Strus, Highsmith, I'm probably going to pass on them on a big slate like this. So let's move on to the other side of this game with Houston. And for the Rockets today, I don't really like a ton here. It's not the best spot against Miami. Really, really tough spot for Şengün. Miami's done a really good job limiting center production this season, so I'm not into Şengün today. Jalen Green, I think at 6,900 is fine. He's going to have a big role without Kevin Porter Jr. No Eric Gordon either. Eric Gordon got traded, so Jalen Green at 6,900 I think is playable. KJ Martin should play even more minutes without Eric Gordon. I think he's fine at 5,500. Jabari Smith, not super interested in. Tari Eason, not super interested in. Do want to keep an eye on who starts for Eric Gordon. So Eric Gordon has been starting lately. I'm guessing they go to like Jae'Sean Tate or Tari Eason. Definitely keep an eye on that because Tari Eason and Jae'Sean Tate are both good permanent producers. If Tari Eason starts for Eric Gordon, I think he's a good value. If Jae'Sean Tate starts for Eric Gordon, I think he'll be in play for value. If they start someone else, then it depends on who starts. Like Daishawn Nix, if he starts, not interested. I don't think anyone, it's probably going to be either Eason or Tate. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. Eason or Tate, whichever starts, I do like quite a bit for value. Obviously with no Eric Gordon, somebody's going to have to fill that void. But that'll do it for Houston. Let's move on to the next game. We still got 5 more to go through. Going to try and go through these quickly, guys. So Minnesota and Memphis. On the Memphis side, Memphis pretty much fully healthy here. Only guy they're missing is Steven Adams. John Morant, I think, is in a pretty good spot. Minnesota, they play fast. This game should be played at a fast pace. It's a tough matchup individually, like one-on-one. John Morant's going to see a lot of Jaden McDaniels, who's been a good defender this year, but I still think the pace of this game sets up pretty well for Ja. I think he's fine. I think Desmond Bane and Triple J feel priced about right. Neither one of those guys stand out. Probably not going to go to the Memphis bigs. I think it's a big enough slate where there's a lot of other center value that I prefer, so probably not going to really look to Brandon Clark or Xavier Tillman when there's other center values I like today. And then on the other side with Minnesota, so Minnesota could definitely be shorthanded today. Still no Cat. They traded away. Who did they trade away? D'Angelo Russell they traded away. And then Gobert is questionable. Mike Conley they did acquire, but we don't know yet if Mike Conley is going to be available for Minnesota. He's listed as questionable. And then Kyle Anderson's questionable too. So definitely keep an eye on this. Obviously, if Rudy Gobert is out, biggest beneficiary would be Naz Reid. Naz Reid would be a great value if Gobert is out. If Mike Conley doesn't play, then we should see Jalen Noel start at point guard again. Jalen Noel was great last game as a starter, played 29 minutes, had 51 Draftkings points. He would be an incredible value if Mike Conley is not available. If Mike Conley plays, I'm not super interested in him. I don't think his role is going to be super great on this Minnesota team. And then Kyle Anderson, if he plays, he's fine. But if he gets ruled out, Taurean Prince would benefit. Taurean Prince did start last game, was really productive, had 34 DK points in 29 minutes. He would be a viable cheap option if Kyle Anderson doesn't play. So definitely keep an eye on some of these Minnesota pieces. Anthony Edwards at 10K feels priced about right, but his role should be really good without D'Angelo Russell. Had a really big game last game in limited minutes. Lost some minutes because of blowout, but obviously if this game's competitive, we can expect close to 40 minutes from Anthony Edwards. And without D'Angelo Russell, without Cat, he's just going to have a massive workload. And then Gobert, if he plays at 6,700, I think is fine too. But yeah, there's definitely Minnesota is a team we could be looking to target today, specifically for some value. Let's move on to the next game though, the Cavs and the Pelicans. So Not one I'm super interested in on the Pelicans side. I think the one guy I like on the Pelicans today is Brandon Ingram. He's just had a really big role lately without Zion Williamson. Minutes have been pretty much full as well. He's played 36 minutes in 2 of their last 3 games. Obviously, the matchup against Cleveland is kind of tough, but when Ingram's playing 35, 36 minutes without Zion, he should be like 8,500. He's still definitely too cheap. He's my favorite play on the Pelicans. I don't really like any other Pelicans, though, on this slate. And then on the Cleveland side, Cleveland's pretty much fully healthy here. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland both missed last game, but they're back for today. They feel priced about right for this spot. Neither one stand out on this slate. Mobley and Allen feel priced correctly. Neither one of those guys stand out either. Not much I like in this one. Favorite play in this game is definitely Brandon Ingram. Outside of that, probably going to be passing on this game. So let's move on to the next one, Dallas and Sacramento. So for Sacramento today, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, those are the 2 guys I think that you could definitely look to target on this Kings team. I think they're both viable GPP plays, but neither one stand out as priorities on this slate. The rest of the Kings, I'm just going to pass on. Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Kevin Huerter on an 11-game slate. I just don't know if these guys really offer enough upside. And then on the Dallas side, the big news here is Luka status. So Luka's questionable for this game. Obviously, if Luka plays, I mean, his role might not be as strong now that he's playing with Kyrie. So I don't think Luka's going to be worth the $12K price tag now that he's playing with Kyrie. I expect his price to come down. And then Kyrie at 10.5, I'm probably only considering him if Luka's out. If Luka plays, I just think both Kyrie and Luka are overpriced right now, given the usage that the usage hits they're going to take playing with each other. So probably going to pass on Dallas as a whole unless Luka sits. Then I think Kyrie would be okay. Christian Wood, not been playing a ton of minutes lately, been coming off the bench. He's a really tough guy to trust right now. Just going to pass on him. Going to pass on THJ. I really don't like anything on Dallas here. Reggie Bullock had a big game last game. I'll let other people chase that. I'm not going to go to Reggie Bullock here. So that'll do it for that one. Let's move on to the next game, OKC and Portland. So for Portland today, obviously they traded away Josh Hart. Yusuf Nurkic is still out, and then they did trade away Gary Payton as well. So this team could definitely be shorthanded. Last game, they actually did start Gary Payton in place of Josh Hart, so I don't know what they're going to do with the starting lineup. We know Dame's going to start. We know Simons is going to start. We know Grant's going to start. We know Drew Eubanks is going to start. Who starts for Hart, / Payton, since they're both gone? Probably Nasir Little, I guess, or like a Shaedon Sharp, but it's probably going to be Little. Little's really cheap. If he starts, he'll be in play at 3K. Definitely would be viable. But really from Portland, you're kind of looking to the main guys here, Dame, Simons, Grant. I think Dame at 10-9 is firmly in play here. I mean, OKC's been a pretty good matchup, especially because they do play at a fast pace. They still don't have Lou Dort, so they're missing their best defender. And Dame has just been on an absolute tear lately. Been playing massive minutes, been crushing every night. He's definitely a strong pay-up option. I have no issue going to him. Simons and Grant, they both feel priced about right. Neither one stand out on this slate. Drew Eubanks is not a guy that I've really been playing lately, but this matchup is really good. OKC's been a great matchup for centers all season. The only issue is that there's a lot of good center value today, and I think Eubanks is going to fall between the cracks, but I expect his ownership to be very low, so I think in tournaments you can definitely roster a low-owned Drew Eubanks and hope that he has a big game here and a really good matchup. I don't mind going there as a GPP option, but that's pretty much it for Portland. And then on the other side with OKC, I think for the Thunder, you're kind of looking to SGA or Giddey and then probably passing on everyone else. SGA at 10.8 feels priced correctly, if not a little bit overpriced. I would rather roster Dame if I was going to play a star in this game. Giddey at 8K, another guy that I'm not super interested in at his price tag. Jalen Williams had a really big game last game, but 5,500 on a 10-game or an 11-game slate. Yeah, I'm not going to go to Jalen Williams today. Not really going to look to any other OKC guys. So not a ton from OKC I like besides SGA is just like a low-owned dart throw. But again, there's other studs I prefer over SGA today. Last game of the night, though, the Bucks and the Clippers. So the Bucks, they're on the second night of a back-to-back. We're definitely going to have to monitor their injury report. I would not be surprised if you do see some guys maybe rest for the Bucks here. Giannis has been on the injury report lately. Wouldn't be surprised if you see him get rested. But for now, we just kind of have to assume that everyone's playing. If that's the case, Giannis as a pay-up option, totally fine to get to. There's plenty of value on the slate, so it should be relatively easy to pay up for Giannis if you want to go that route. We know Giannis has massive upside, a massive role, and I'm pretty sure last time they played the Clippers, he just went nuts. He put up, he put up 81 Draftkings points last time these teams played. So, feel free to play Giannis. Drew Holiday, I think is 7,800, priced correctly. The rest of the Bucks, I'm just going to pass on. Chris Middleton, been playing slightly more minutes off the bench, but on the back-to-back, they could maybe limit him here. He might even rest this game. Yeah, I think I'll pass on Middleton. It's really just Giannis that stands out from the Bucks today. And then on the Clippers side, We did get word that Kawhi Leonard is going to rest this game for injury management. So without Kawhi Leonard, we can expect a really, really big role for Paul George. I think at 8,900, Paul George looks like a pretty good play today. I have a lot of interest in him as kind of like a pay-up option, kind of a mid-tier pay-up option. He's definitely my favorite play on the Clippers. Zubac, we'll have to wait and see if Mason Plumlee's available. So Mason Plumlee got traded to the Clippers. Mason Plumlee is not in the player pool, but if he's available, he obviously could take some minutes away from Zubac. So I'm not really going to look to Zubac anyway here. Norman Powell, I don't really like a ton. Marcus Morris, maybe you could go to without Kawhi. Terrence Mann, I think is okay. So they don't have Reggie Jackson anymore, and John Wall got traded away too, even though Wall wasn't playing anyway. But without Reggie Jackson, they are pretty thin at the point guard position. They don't really have a ton of guards. So I think Terrence Mann's going to play a lot. He played 35 minutes last game. Now they don't have Kawhi either. At 4K, I kind of like Terrence Mann for value here. I think he's definitely in play. He's probably my second favorite play on the Clippers behind Paul George. But that's really it for this team. Nothing else stands out here. So that'll do it for that game, and that'll do it for this 11-game big Friday night slate, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that like button down below if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And go check out PrizePicks, sponsor of the video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with that promo code, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Definitely give them a try if you guys have not yet. But good luck on this Friday night slate. Enjoy your weekend, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.